According to World Health Organization, an estimated 3 million children die each year in the African region due to a lack of vaccines. Even though countless children in Africa and in many other countries are desperate for these preventative medications, many families in America choose not to vaccinate their own children. In fact, there is a nationwide controversy over whether or not children within the U.S. should be vaccinated. Despite the availability of medication, doctors, and medical facilities, people within the United States still choose not to vaccinate their kids. Today, my goal is to explain the importance of vaccinating the youth of America. I aim to accomplish this goal by discussing the general problems associated with not vaccinating, the causes of the anti-vaccination epidemic, and finally, the multi-level solutions to solve the issue of Americans not wanting to vaccinate their children. According to Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, the first vaccine was invented in 1796 by Edward Jenner. Even with the lack of knowledge on medications at this time period, people and families were desperately afraid of epidemics, and so they craved vaccinations for their children. Furthermore, according to Health Affairs, once the vaccine became publicized, thousands of people began to partake in what was called mass-scale vaccinations. In fact, by 1800, over 100,000 people in Europe were already vaccinated, and vaccines were beginning to spread to other countries such as America. Even despite these statistics and examples that promote vaccines, many people actually argue against vaccinations. Therefore, the main issue regarding vaccinations is that people do not want to vaccinate their kids. Because of anti-vaccination supporters, there's been a major reoccurrence of illnesses throughout the U.S. that were once completely suppressed. For example, according to the website Reuters, at least 225 people contracted measles in October of 2018 in New York. This outbreak only began with one affected traveler who had recently visited Israel. However, due to the unvaccinated people back in New York, the illness quickly spread throughout the city. It is examples like this that represent the severity of the problem of unvaccinated children. Since many Americans feel that vaccinations cause health problems, are not necessary, and that they're unsafe for children, the issue of people not vaccinating their kids has become more prominent in recent years. There are many reasons that cause individuals and families across America to refuse to vaccinate their children. These causes include the belief that vaccines cause health disorders, the thought that vaccines are not necessary or useful, and finally, that these preventative medications are unsafe or made with harmful ingredients. There are countless people and websites that would argue that vaccinations cause major health problems in kids, such as autism or even sudden infant death syndrome. However, regarding autism, there have been 0 studies that concluded that vaccinations result in this condition. Therefore, as stated by clinical infectious diseases, vaccinations do not cause autism. Likewise, sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS for short, is not associated directly with vaccines. Rather, many of the infants who suffer from SIDS had a weakened immune system that combined with the vaccine had devastating effects. Even so, the history of vaccines reports that only 1 to 2 children out of 1 million will lose their life as a direct result of being vaccinated. The second cause many people give for not supporting vaccination is that vaccinations are no longer useful or necessary. Some people claim that many diseases targeted by vaccinations have disappeared and other diseases targeted by vaccines are relatively harmless. This argument proposed by anti-vaccination supporters actually supports the pro-vaccination viewpoint. To elaborate, the only reason why cases of diseases such as tetanus have practically disappeared across America is because people have been vaccinating their children. Therefore, if vaccinations for these illnesses stopped, there would be yet another outbreak of these diseases and illnesses. Also, the anti-vaccination supporters claim that children should not be vaccinated against mild diseases such as chickenpox. However, if researched, it would be apparent that after the initial rash of chickenpox disappears, a child is left with the shingles virus inside of them. Shingles is much more dangerous than chickenpox, and it can have even more severe side effects. Therefore, for safety precautions, children should be given all of their recommended vaccines. Finally, people choose not to vaccinate their children because they think the medication and the ingredients of the medication are unsafe. Although it is argued that there is no proof of the safety of vaccinations, numerous tests and safety procedures have been done by major medical organizations. In fact, the Food and Drug Administration and the American Medical Association have approved each vaccine to ensure the safety of all children and adults alike. Furthermore, there are some potentially harmful ingredients in vaccines, such as aluminum. However, according to procon.org, a baby will be exposed to more aluminum by drinking breast milk than they will from receiving a vaccine. Likewise, every other potentially harmful ingredient has been tested and used in quantities that will not negatively affect a child in any way. Therefore, the pro-vaccination viewpoint should be adopted by all people to protect the youth and general population of America. There are solutions to Americans not wanting to vaccinate their children on a general, local, and personal level. On a large-scale level, the federal government should take a stand to enforce vaccines. In other countries, such as Italy or France, many vaccinations are mandatory for children up until a certain age. The United States government should follow their lead and create a list of mandatory vaccines for children. Also, the federal government should increase funds given to medical facilities to promote vaccination of children. This would ensure the health protection of each child in America and would prevent potential outbreaks like the ones mentioned in New York. Furthermore, on a local level, hospitals and clinics should advocate the vaccinations of children within America. Also, if discounted or free prices were offered for vaccinations, the number of vaccinated kids would likely go up. Likewise, communities could unify and promote vaccinations locally in order to help protect their children. Finally, each person in the United States can contribute by choosing to vaccinate their own children. Furthermore, each individual has the ability to encourage their friends and their family members to vaccinate their kids for protection. Finally, individuals can join a community organization that promotes the prevention of diseases in children. Each of these actions, whether on a federal, local, or personal level, will help in revealing the necessity of vaccinating America's children. In conclusion, there is a prominent issue within the United States, which is that Americans do not want to vaccinate their children. Anti-vaccination supporters feel that they have just cause for not giving their children preventative medications. Their causes include that vaccines may cause health issues, are no longer necessary, and are even unsafe for young children or babies. However, I hope I have proved throughout this speech that these causes are invalid and unsupported. Furthermore, I've discussed many solutions to this anti-vaccination epidemic on a grand, local, and a personal scale. To recap, the federal government can support and fund pro-vaccination, local communities can promote vaccinations to community members, and individuals can vaccinate their own children and encourage others to do so as well. I hope that throughout this discussion that I have effectively explained the importance of vaccinating the youth of America. By doing so, the current American public can ensure the safety, protection, and the future of the next generation. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So why did you choose the speech over vaccinating kids?
I chose this topic because the medical and the health field has always interested me ever since I was little and now as a teenager. And I recently noticed a large debate on the news on the television, and that was that throughout the United States, people are debating should children not or should they be vaccinated. And so I decided to do more research on this topic because I like to make an informed opinion about topics like this. And the more I was looking at both the anti and the pro stance on vaccinations, I realized that there were very little drawbacks to vaccinating your kids. And again, the more I looked into it, I saw the drawbacks and risk of not vaccinating your children. And so when I knew that I needed to create a speech topic, I immediately jumped to children should be vaccinated.
I got a question.
Yes.
Which anti-vaccination viewpoint was the hardest to argue against?
I would have to say my third point, which is that vaccines are completely safe. Although I have researched and I have discovered that vaccines are safe for almost everyone, there have been cases where people experience the typical side effects of getting a vaccine, such as some light burning or itching around the application area. But more so, I have to pick my third point because my first and second points were a lot easier to argue and prove that the anti-vaccination stance was invalid. Because Vaccines are extremely safe, but as mentioned, they do have very limited side effects. But I am completely certain that vaccines do not cause autism, and likewise, they are not obsolete in the medical world. Thank you.